Are we both wearing pink sweatshirts?
We are both wearing pink sweatshirts, and you know what's bad
What?
is my headphone isn't connected.
Oh. How did the pink sweatshirts happen? Mine is a dirty one. It's one that I wear when I'm like doing like something that's going to get messy.
It's
You know,
your home sweatshirt.
it's not a home sweatshirt. It's like a, like cleaning up and that kind of a sweatshirt. Like it's not
Yes, it's
a
a.
sweatshirt, the one that I would like, you know, wear to bed or something or like wear around
Mm-hmm.
the house. It's a sweatshirt that I don't mind getting messy. I was doing some
No, good. Uh, my pink, my pink sweatshirt happened because I was in the market for a sweatshirt, and this was the cheap sweatshirt that I got from Walmart. And I was like, hey, I don't really wear anything that's pink, so let me wear this. So I wore it out, and I was like, I feel okay wearing it. But now it's just a gym sweatshirt.
You had like a internal monologue with yourself before you decided to wear the sweatshirt out?
Yeah, I don't usually wear. When have you seen me ever wear anything that's pink?
Yeah, but like why do you need to have a conversation with yourself about that?
Because I'm not used to it. It's not a color that I usually buy.
Yeah, but
For me, this is it's
your
an adventure.
gender?
What happened?
Is it because of your gender?
I'm sure that's a part of it. Growing up, I did
Yeah,
not
let's
wear pink
unpack it.
things. There's
Let's
nothing
unpack.
to unpack. I think it's pretty straightforward.
No, I
I
think
think
it's yes. What do you think it is?
I think what happened is growing up, I didn't wear pink because I grew up in a time and a place where a man wearing pink was looked down upon. Right. That obviously those things, those attitudes have changed in the last 20 years or so. But I never evolved with those attitudes. I just never bought anything pink. And I was like, hey, let me try this same.
And
And
this is your evolution.
this is my evolution.
You've turned into a pink Pokemon.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're down to the last week of Ramadan. How is it going for you? Because I'm not gonna lie to you, today is a struggle.
I'll be honest, today, I think specifically today, I'm tuckered out today, man.
I think it's this weather.
I
Why
think it's
has
the
it been
weather.
raining for so many days? Is it ever gonna be sunny ever again?
Now, if you recall, you said on one of the episodes that it was sunny when you didn't have to fast.
Hmm.
Do you think that's what's happening? Do you think God is taking it out on all of us in New
Yeah, I think
Jersey?
so. Yeah,
Makes sense.
seems to be the most logical sense here. That of all the ails in the world, all the things that are going on, God is like, I need to sync up the weather with that woman's menstrual cycle.
Yes. Well, the opposite, right?
The whole thing is the
The whole
cycle.
thing.
Yeah.
But it's basically to maximize your, like, how awful you feel.
Yeah, because
You're suffering.
I feel terrible today.
Mhm.
This weather is the pits. There was like a half of a tree down on our street.
There's a tree down in my backyard that I just haven't dealt with.
You know what? It's fine. Nature will deal
It's
with
fine.
it.
Exactly.
If a
Or, I
tree
mean,
if a tree falls and nobody's there to pick it up, did it
nothing
fall?
happens. Yeah. If a tree falls and I don't capture it on Facebook or Instagram, does it really even fall? No.
Anyway, yeah, I'm struggling. I'm not doing so well. Is all I really have to say. But the only thing that I really am, happy about recently is, oh God, I don't know what I'm happy about.
In general, in the
Yeah,
world?
I think I'm in the middle of a spiral.
Oh, like a depression spiral?
Yeah,
I was thinking about, there are a lot of terrible things that are out there right
yeah,
now.
yeah.
And I was like, I think I'm just avoiding. I'm in a deep state of, is it denial or avoidance about what's
Avoidance.
going? It's
Yeah,
avoidance right now, right?
yeah.
'Cause,
Because
like, I don't.
denial would be saying that it's not happening, but avoidance
Mhm.
is I know it's happening, but I'm just gonna avoid it.
Yep, exactly. Like
Yeah.
you heard about these 7 workers that died, right?
Yes.
The World
Aid
Kitchen, right?
workers for world. Yeah.
Where and it's like you hear that story, you're just like, that is the worst fucking thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
These people were just trying to feed people,
Yeah.
and they were like targeted and they were murdered, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you think of it?
They were
And
hunted down. It wasn't
yeah,
even an accident.
and you go, well, that's the worst thing. I don't want to think about it, and you just move on. It's
Yeah.
bad.
Um So anyway, thanks for tuning into this episode. It's going to be a really good one because
So
you're talking
down.
to two siblings who are down in the dumps.
Down in the dumps, hungry,
Oh, so hungry.
caffeine, and in some cases, nicotine withdrawal,
Yeah.
um, making me
How
feel
is
bad.
that for you? Can we talk about this? Because, I don't think that you and I have ever really discussed the fact
Hmm.
that you are, in fact, a smoker. In
A dirty,
2024,
filthy.
2024, you are still smoking cigarettes.
I don't know why I need to be called out like this in a public forum, but
Well, you're
yes,
the one that brought up that you're going through nicotine withdrawal.
deep nicotine withdrawal. What's your question? How do you
W-
smoke? You put it in your mouth and you fucking light it.
How do you feel about yourself being one of the very few people in the world that still smokes cigarettes?
I don't know if I am one of the very few people in the
It's like
world that
you and
still
four
smoke
other
cigarettes.
pieces of shit. And it's just,
Yeah, me and I don't know Barack Obama. He still smokes cigarettes.
he does?
Yeah,
Oh my God, Barry, what are you doing?
in our defense, in Barry in my defense, it is the most addictive drug out there. It's more addictive than like heroin. I don't know if that's true,
I don't
but
think that's true.
but you know our friend who's like in who does therapy. I don't know exactly what her actual job is.
Our friend who
Um,
does therapy.
yeah,
The one that we grew
she's
up with?
yes,
Oh, we can plug her.
yeah,
And people know her, Isra Nasser. She
yeah.
is on Instagram as at well.guide. She's awesome. We grew up with her. She's
Hmm.
great. What
Yeah.
about her?
She told me that nicotine addiction is the hardest addiction to kick. I'm
Uh-huh.
sure there are other factors that go into it. Like I think the prevalence of it and like how easy it is to buy
Yeah.
obviously make it really, really hard.
Yeah.
I'll say the times that I have made like a concerted effort to like go cold turkey or something like that, it has been very, very hard. It's been like emotional and tough like that, right? Um, if your question is how am I dealing with the fact that I'm a smoker and if I feel bad, of course I feel bad. Of course, I'd rather not smoke, right? But I have been making um, a lot of headway in terms of reducing my nicotine reliance.
Let me ask you, as
Hmm.
your sibling, when did you really start smoking full time?
I don't like this. Um,
I'm just trying to get to know you.
So this is a sad part. I didn't start smoking full time until I was like 28. So before that, I
What
would
year
smoke.
was that?
That has to be, I don't know. I can bring up my age. Probably 2011. 2011. That's what it was. You
It's because
got
I got
married.
married.
I was depressed. I had nothing to do. I had all
Wait,
this
in the
wedding
year,
planning
okay,
to
I feel
do.
like that's around the time people started like vaping, and you were like, you know what? Let's go
Mhm.
old school.
So you want to know about vaping, right? So
Yeah.
like I started in around that time because a coworker of mine, and I'd
Uh-huh.
smoke, right? I'd smoke
Yeah.
here and there, but it never really meant anything. I was never
Yeah.
really buying a pack or anything. I had a coworker that used to smoke all the time, and I'd talk to him, hang out with him for a little bit, just smoke every once in a
Yeah.
while, but it was never really a thing. And then one morning he's like, "Have you ever had a coffee and cigarette together?" I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Just try it for me once." And I
Uh-huh.
did. And it was the best thing in the world. Like both of them enhanced each other, right?
Yeah.
Now this sounds bad and all those things because it is bad. Like I would highly recommend nobody do it. But
Yeah.
there is nothing like coffee and cigarettes that go together. And that just started a thing. And for a long time I was just like, well, I'm not like actually a smoker. I can quit anytime I want to, right? So I when those e-cigarettes came out,
Mhm.
and at that point I was like, you know what? I'm pretty sure I'm I'm addicted at this
Mhm.
point. Let me try to wean off of the actual cigarettes. So I got a pack. At that time, it wasn't a vape. You'd get a pack, and you could recharge like these little
Yeah.
metallic thingies, right?
Yeah.
I got a pack. I had it for 3 days, and I was like, "This is amazing. I never have to smoke again."
Yeah.
Right? And I was like smoking it like inside the office and stuff
Yeah,
because
yeah,
who
yeah.
cares? It's all just water vapor. And then I made a mistake. I had an actual cigarette, and I was like, "Oh, this is so much better! Like so much better. It is like considerably better." And I was like, "Yeah, that's stupid." But I've tried like vaping here and there. That's really, I would rather do cold turkey than vape.
Well, so
Um,
actually, vaping now is considered even more harmful because there's no like
yeah,
limits to where you can do it, and you do it all the
exactly.
time, and it's almost become like a nervous habit for people. Like they just go anywhere and they vape. Like at least with cigarettes, you have to like go to a shame corner somewhere and
I
stand with a
really,
bunch of people.
when I went overseas,
Yeah,
like the real shame corner is anytime you're in an international airport
yeah,
and they have like those indoor smoking rooms.
yeah.
It is the filthiest, most disgusting place in the world.
I
Like,
didn't know they had those. I just thought airports
oh
were all just like no.
no. So the worst one that I went to was the worst one I've ever been to was the one in Lahore.
Hmm.
But this is back in like 2005. That one I walked in and I got a contact high just from everything that was in the air.
Oh God.
The one in Egypt, like the airport in Egypt was wild because people are just smoking indoors there.
Oh, okay.
Um, it was I was in paradise. But what was your question? How do I feel about it? I don't feel good.
I don't. Okay, you don't feel good. Um.
But I have been working on different things. This is something that, self improvement. I've been talking to somebody who is helping me with my terrible affliction. We
A
have,
therapist?
well, a therapist, yes, type of, well, not like a therapist specifically for this, like a wellness type of deal. Um, it's everything. It's like nutrition and also
Oh, okay.
cigarettes and
A
everything,
grifter.
right?
All right, go on.
I don't know. I mean, I got in touch with her on her OnlyFans, and
People, by the way, speaking of real quick about OnlyFans, people are asking for photos of your calves.
I was at the gym last week after we had that conversation, and I caught myself in the mirror, and I looked at my calves. I was like, you know what? I got a point here. They're pretty. They're. What's the Seinfeld thing? They're real and they are spectacular.
Yeah. There's like that gif of SpongeBob's legs.
Hmm.
Have you seen that gif? I could feel
I
like
can take a
that's you.
picture now.
Yeah. Anyway,
Anyways,
what I was asking you was, why do you do it and why won't you quit? But I think it sounds to me like because you're addicted.
yes,
Would you do
it's.
like have you tried the patch?
I haven't tried the patch. I tried the gum for a little bit.
Yeah.
Nothing.
No
It
good. No
didn't
good.
didn't hit. Yeah. So my issue now is, and this is the biggest one that I worked on in Ramadan.
Hmm.
Ramadan.
Yes.
This year was figuring out how much of my smoking is just habitual. Not
Oh.
because there is, I'll tell you this, man, there is, it may not seem like it, but sometimes a cigarette at the right time is the best. It feels like the best thing in the world,
Mm,
right? It almost feels like a functional cigarette. Now it is because you were addicted to it, and the reason why you feel bad is because you haven't had your kick or whatever. But when you do have it, it makes everything else fine. It makes everything else slow down, right?
yeah.
But a lot of my smoking was habitual, which was like smoking in the car, which is just like I'm smoking right now because I'm in the car, and because
Yeah.
I'm in the car, I have to smoke, which is just stupid,
Yeah.
and you feel disgusting and all those things, right? So, this year, those are the things that I'm quickly eliminating
Oh, that's
from my
great.
life. Yeah.
Because obviously, like when you're fasting, you are driving in your car and you're not smoking.
Well, yeah, totally. No, of course, yes. But in you have this other thing in your head. You're just like, well, I'm fasting. I'm not eating, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't need to, whatever. So that carries you through,
Yeah.
just mentally or whatever. But it's the after you open your fast, that's when it's been different for me because
Yeah.
before it was just like I was in the car, whatever, going to quick check.
Yeah.
I'll
Having a
have a cigarette.
smoke.
Yeah, exactly.
When I was in college, there was like one semester. Honestly, it was like a quarter. So it wasn't even a semester. I'm going to say it was like a 3-week period where
Hmm.
all my friends were turning 21 and they were all drinking and stuff. And this was in before they stopped allowing smoking indoors in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So I would go to these like bars and stuff with them during the day and they would drink. And I wasn't drinking, one, because I didn't drink, and two, because I was 20 and
Hmm.
I'm younger than all my friends. And then so I was just like, well, I'm in the bar. So the thing to do was then like drink.
Hmm.
The thing to do was smoke. So
Yeah.
then I started smoking. I never bought my own pack, but I would just love to smoke with my friends who were smokers.
I use the bum. Yeah, we hate people like you. The
Okay,
smokers hate you.
we
Yeah.
okay. And then
National Coalition of Smokers,
and
NCS.
then and then I was like, "Oh, this feels good." And then I did do the coffee and cigarettes thing. because
Hmm.
I was like, oh, I hear this also makes you skinny. So I did that for like 10 days. This is really toxic. I can't believe like nobody at our house picked up on it. For like 10 days, all I did was smoke cigarettes and drink coffee because I
What?
thought that that was going to make me thinner. And I got
It,
really sick.
yeah, no shit.
Like I think I ate, but like not a lot, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't lose any weight.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
So anyway, that was my run with smoking. And then there were times when like I had crushes on guys who were smokers, so I would just like hang out with them outside and smoke with them as like a way to spend time with
Hmm.
them. Very
Yeah.
pathetic. Just the worst,
You do
honestly.
meet people. It is easier to meet
Well,
people when you're
you
outside.
also you love to meet people.
Yeah.
You love to meet people, and I feel like you're a smoker's dream in that little
It
shame
would
corner.
exactly. It would actually be harmful for my way of life if I quit because then I couldn't talk to people. I have no other way to introduce myself other than ask for a light.
All right. Well, how do we get on the topic of you smoking?
I have no idea. I said I was going through like a slight nicotine withdrawal and then
Oh,
you
right. And I
latched
said,
onto it. Yeah, you
and
latched
I
onto
said,
it
nom nom nom
and you,
nom nom nom
you
nom nom.
publicly shamed me.
Hey, guess
Uh,
what?
mhm,
You speaking of shaming, you were shaming me last week. You were like, "Oh, let me tell you about some women's college basketball," and then you were like, "You're
mhm.
not going to watch it." Well, guess what, buddy? I did. I watched the Iowa State and LSU game. I almost called it a match.
Did
Uh,
you?
I did.
How was the Iowa State and LSU
Was
game
it
for you?
Iowa State?
It was not. It was
Was it
Iowa.
Iowa? I don't know. I'm assuming it's state. Is
No, it's
Iowa
just
State a
Iowa.
different team?
Iowa State is a different
Okay,
college.
well, I don't know. I'm
Now
assuming.
that you're talking about Iowa State, we're not. You know who went to Iowa State?
Who?
Brock Purdy. Anyways, we don't have to talk
Oh,
about that.
okay. It's not a good time for Brock's. As I mentioned before, you got to know that Sheena Shea's
Oh
new
no.
husband's name is Brock.
Uh huh.
Brock is a piece of shit. He's really not a fan favorite right now. He's
Oh
been
well.
yelling at Ariana. Anyway,
Okay.
block. Anyway, yeah, I watched the game. I watched the Iowa and LSU game. And I was
What did
sad.
What did you think? So, were you rooting for somebody? You
I
were
was rooting
rooting
for
for.
LSU.
Hmm.
But one cannot deny that Caitlin Clark, she's very good.
Yes, Caitlin Clark is amazing.
Yeah.
Now, did you have a good time watching her? Were you excited watching her?
I I'm not excited to watch basketball, but when
Oh,
exciting things happen, I do have a natural reaction, and she was doing a lot of exciting things is the best
yes.
way to put it, you
So,
know.
like, it's like watching Steph Curry if you're not a fan of Steph Curry because of all the shots and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
mean, it's watching somebody hit like a deep shot is exciting
It
on its own,
is.
right? Yeah.
Exactly. That's like the most exciting thing about basketball. Like I know that like a lot of the stuff with basketball now is like the and ones and the getting in people's faces and the drops and the dunks and all that stuff. Like I don't care about that. But for me, when somebody makes a deep shot, I get very excited.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that was very far away and you did it anyway.
Well, I have a question now. Do you have a sport that you do find aesthetically pleasing? I guess it's a football.
Unfortunately for myself, but fortunately for my husband, it's football. I
You
enjoy
do find
watching football. I do.
like watching a football game is exciting because I guess it's the way that it's set up, right? Every play, something big could
Yeah, but
happen.
it's not even because, like, when we were younger, I got excited watching basketball. Like, I enjoyed watching basketball because I felt
Hmm.
like a lot was going on. It was constant, and I found football to be very boring.
Yeah.
But now, because of indoctrination and years of programming, I find that football is really fun to watch. I enjoy
Yeah.
watching it. I get the excitement. I get like the anxiety before, you know, a play starts. Like I
Each
get
play.
that. Yeah,
Exactly.
I
Because there's a running clock and all
exactly.
those
So
things, right?
I
Yeah.
get all those things. So
I think that's the thing about football is one is that when it's football season, it's football season. That is a main thing that's
yeah,
happening in the sports world for all of us, right?
yeah,
So that's a big part of it. And the other thing is it is exclusive, right? It is you only get it for like 16 or 20 weeks out of the year. Where
yeah.
basketball it feels like it's happening all the time. But overall, I think as a sport to watch, I think basketball is my favorite sport to watch.
Oh, interesting. You know what I
So
don't care for?
mhm.
Baseball.
The trick with baseball, because baseball season just started also, the trick with baseball is the the aesthetically pleasing parts of baseball are the defense. It's not hitting. Like if somebody hits a ball with a bat, it's not the most beautiful thing that you've ever seen. But if somebody is playing infield and like a shortstop makes a play on a ball and throws it to the second baseman who throws it to the first baseman, that's a pretty thing to see, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's like a
it is. And you
ballet.
know what? That's a good point because when I'm watching baseball and I'm only paying attention to the offense,
Hmm.
and I get very bored because I'm
Yeah,
like, God, nothing has happened. They're just
there's a lot
swinging
of
and
waiting
missing and
around,
swinging. Yeah, there's
just
a lot of
and
waiting
foul
around.
balls. Yeah, exactly.
So annoying. But that's a good point. Anyway, back
Hmm.
to the women's basketball game.
Yes. Now
Um,
you said
yeah.
you were rooting for LSU.
Hmm.
Is there a reason why you're rooting for LSU?
Yeah, because of Angel Reese.
Okay. Because of the story last year and
Because of the
everything.
story
Okay.
last year, and I was like, "Fuck these people." And yeah, I was excited. And then of course there was at the end of the game, Caitlin Clark, LSU did not win.
Hmm.
But at the end of the game, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese like hugged each other, whatever. And there's all these people online who are like, "She's a better person than me because I would never do that," like about Caitlin Clark. And I was like, "Okay, well that means that you're a piece of shit. What about it?"
It's, there's nothing bad, zero bad things about the Caitlin Clark story. Like, it is awesome for women's basketball, it's awesome for women's sport. But as a sports fan, also, it's fun to watch somebody like that perform so well, right?
Yeah,
Like, there should be nothing bad about it. You can root for Caitlin Clark, but that doesn't mean that you have to really root against other people. And I think
yeah,
that's the one bad thing that's happened with all this Caitlin Clark stuff is it has brought in new people to the sport, which is good, right? But a lot of those people also come in with like their own preconceived notions about a lot of different things, right? And the reason why some
you
people,
could call them racist.
I guess so, but you can also say just, I'll give you an example. Who's a so during the game, right? There was this moment that they showed Jason Sudeikis,
Hmm.
right?
I saw
So
that.
uh, I think Caitlin Clark hit a 3-pointer over Angel Reese,
Uh huh.
and they showed Jason Sudeikis, and he did this.
Doing this, yeah.
Right?
I saw that.
That is,
Oh,
a,
for the listeners, the audience who doesn't watch us on YouTube, it's the John Cena "You Can't See
you
Me"
can't.
thing with the
Yeah,
hands. Yeah.
exactly. Now, for in the within the context of the game, he is calling back to when Angel Reese did that to Caitlin Clark last year,
Yes.
right? Now, as a sports fan, you see that there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think
Yeah.
that is acceptable.
Sure.
What sucks is that when people see that stuff and they see Caitlin Clark or Iowa's victory being some sort of like deeper conversation about good versus evil, right?
Yeah.
Because LSU. One of the things is LSU didn't come out for the national anthem because they never come out for the national anthem,
Yeah.
right? And people are like, well, see, Iowa came out for the national anthem, and that's the reason why they won. Right? It's a whole lot of nonsense
Can we
that
talk about
just
national anthems for a second?
sure.
I don't care for them. When I go to football games, I don't stand for
Hmm.
them.
Oh, I think national anthems at football games happening every week was a thing that happened after 9/11.
Hmm.
So before that, I think they used to happen before like the big games and stuff like that. And they were always around before baseball games, but I
Hmm.
think at football games they got added after 9/11 or something. But yeah,
Yeah.
it feels like it devalues the national anthem, but I don't have a problem with it.
But also, like, I don't, I'm not I'm very, I don't know what the opposite of nationalist is,
Hmm.
but I'm whatever that is. Because I don't like countries. I don't like
Uh,
borders. I don't like nationalism. I don't care for flags. I hate flags. I hate them
you
because they're the
understand
worst.
why they're necessary, though, right?
Yeah, to identify people. I understand.
No, I think
I just
I
don't care. Like it's like in this day and age, here we are. We're still fucking standing for the national anthem. Suck my dick. Like it's so stupid. It's the worst. Like also, like I was at a town hall meeting. I was at town council meeting, and they
Mhm.
did they did the Pledge of Allegiance, and I was like, absolutely not. I'm not doing the Pledge of Allegiance. And I sat, and some white woman stared me down, and I was like, okay. I'm not pledging allegiance to the United States of America. Absolutely not. What an insane
I
thing that
think
we were required to do when we were kids every
every
day.
morning, every morning. Yeah. You remember when they changed that?
I don't remember when they changed that.
It was when we were in high school. It
Oh.
happened in probably around 99 or 2000.
Mhm.
There was a mom that argued against that. I want to say in California. And that's how it got removed. But you could still do it if you chose to do it. Before that, it was required.
I feel
I don't
like
know.
you like it. You like this
I,
stuff.
I, th- I think we're different on that stuff. So let me ask you a question because we were gonna talk about Beyonce at some point, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Um, I, I guess we want to talk about that now.
Well, let's actually no. Let's finish our conversation. This is what happens when I have not eaten and I did not wake up this morning to have my coffee. Let's finish
Uh-huh.
this conversation about LSU and Iowa State or Iowa State. LSU and Iowa. I agree. Like, I think that when you were saying like all these people who are coming in and being like, "Oh, this is good versus evil" and stuff, like this is why
Hmm.
like I hate. Like, I think like also when you get people, I think the more popular a thing becomes, you are always going to
Hmm.
have people suddenly jump in who just have like the worst takes.
They
It's like
have bad.
the worst takes. Like, shut up, you know?
Some people just have bad intentions. Also, I think the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, of course.
I think the thing that people also find annoying is yes, Caitlin Clark is amazing. She is a delight to watch. She is very dramatic in terms of like being a sports, in terms of being an athlete. So like she's very clutch. She hits the big shot when you really, really want her to hit the big shot. So that makes it more exciting. And the way that she plays the game is very, very exciting, right? All of these things are good. That doesn't mean that she's like the first women's college basketball player. And I think
Exactly.
that is the issue that people have with it, which is yes, you should come, you should celebrate Caitlin Clark, but that doesn't mean that you have to hate Angel Reese.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that also doesn't mean that you can't recognize that somebody like Flau'jae Johnson, who's on LSU, who was just a sophomore this year, is an incredible player also. She's a
Hmm.
lot of fun to watch also, right? We were talking about Paige Beckers last week, right? So
Yeah.
now Caitlin Clark and Paige Beckers are going to play against each other, I think, on Friday. Um, but you know, there are other people, and a lot of the a lot of the times that those other people don't get shine is because of the fact that they're not,
White.
white girl. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not white girls,
Well,
right?
I was thinking about like remember when like Backstreet Boys and stuff, like obviously when like um
Mm-hmm.
boy bands and stuff took off?
Yeah.
Like B2K was like a significant like boy band, right? But like I did not listen to them because it was not music that necessarily came to or to like TRL,
Mm-hmm.
but it was like really popular within black communities. And I think like if music was more as integrated as it is or as inclusive as it is today, I think if music was like that more so to like back then, I would probably listen to more B2K, but I did not know them because it was just like music that didn't come to like popular radio stations. What
Mm-hmm.
happened? Why are you smirking?
No, I'm just saying. So Caitlin Clark has to pay for your B2K sins.
No, I'm not saying anything about that. I'm just saying that like the sad part of
Mm-hmm.
popularity in this country is that unless a white person does it, it's just not normalized still. And
That's
so when people talk
100% true.
about institutionalized racism and the fact that this is a country built on white supremacy and how there's so many problems with the way that the structure is set up, this is one
Mm-hmm.
of the things is that things do not get popular unless a white person does it, and it's the fucking worst, especially for the black and brown people who are struggling so hard and working so hard and playing just as good, if not better. And they're not getting the flowers that they deserve. It's only the
Mm-hmm.
white people that are bringing in the popularity. And there was a speech I saw. I don't know if it's like old or recent or whatever, but there's a speech I saw of somebody winning an award at the ESPYS. It was an athlete, a female athlete, won
Mm-hmm.
an award at the ESPYS. I think a basketball player. She may have been a basketball player. I'm not sure, but
Mm-hmm.
she talked about how she's really appreciative of the award, but the thing is that it's awkward for her as a white woman to be standing up here winning an award for a league or winning an award for a sport that is so predominantly black, and yet black women are not given the same kind of attention. I
Oh.
don't know who it was. I
Was
should.
it? See if check if it was Brianna Stewart. I remember Brianna Stewart, who's a basketball player, plays for the New York Liberty now. She gave a speech at the ESPYS that people found um, people found like there was a lot of reaction to it. The thing I remember about Brianna Stewart's speech though is she was talking about the fact that women's sports
No, it wasn't
don't.
Brianna Stewart. It was somebody else. But
Okay.
yes, tell me about
Well,
Brianna Stewart's speech.
Brianna Stewart's speech was more about the fact that women's sports don't get the attention that men's sports do, and that's something that needs to change, right? And people got really upset about that because they're like, well, people are allowed to
Raheel,
choose.
it was Paige Beckers.
Was it?
Yes.
When did Paige Beckers win an ESPY? For what?
I don't
College?
Yeah, she won an SB for I don't know what, but she used her speech to she won best college athlete.
Ah.
And she used her speech to talk about how we need to be promoting more black female athletes.
So that makes a lot of sense because Paige Beckers, my recollection of her college career was that it was sidelined due to injury. Like
Mhm.
Paige Beckers, again, was supposed to be Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
Like this was the story when she was coming out because they're the same age or whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't know that she won, best female college athlete or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's really interesting. That's awesome. Good for
Yeah. I
Paige.
wonder I wonder when she won this. This is in 2021.
After um the pandemic year, maybe that's the reason why a lot of stuff got a lot of stuff got canceled. But yes, I agree with all of the stuff that you're saying
Yeah.
because there's obviously a big part of the Caitlin Clark fandom is because she is white, right?
Yeah.
And it's also the reason why you see her on all these TV ads. Like she's a State Farm
Yeah.
ad, she has, I think, a Gatorade ad, she has NCAA ads, and again, all that stuff is really, really good. I think next year when she goes to the WNBA, it's going to be great for the WNBA because a lot of people are going to come and watch her, right? That doesn't mean that a the product hasn't existed for a long time, and b that a lot of great people have done a lot of great work in the past that have just never been they've just never been recognized for it.
Yeah.
And there are going to be people after Caitlin Clark that people should start looking at right now. Like there's this, if you're going to be watching this weekend, on South Carolina, by the way, we've talked about LSU and Caitlin Clark and Paige Beckers and all those things, right? South Carolina is the best team in the country, and it has
Okay.
been the best team all year, right? Nobody talks about them because that's how you view women's sports. That's how media views women's sports. Like nobody cares or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's this freshman on South Carolina. Her name is Mylasia Full Wiley,
Uh-huh.
right? Watch her play basketball. Like she is the most exciting female basketball player I've ever seen, right?
Oh.
And you
Wow.
never ever hear about her because she's a freshman, and also because probably she doesn't look like Caitlin Clark.
You could
So
say she's black.
I don't want to, because there have been black athletes obviously that have gotten recognition in the
Mhm.
past, right? But they haven't gotten recognition the way that Caitlin Clark gets
Yeah.
recognition. So that's
Yeah,
it.
and it's because they are black and she's white. That's the
Yes.
way that works. Oh.
I go out of my way not to blame the white man.
I know you really do, and I don't know
It's
why.
annoying.
It's annoying, but guess what? Recently, you know what? Before we talk about Beyonce, since we're on the topic of white people, somebody said something, left me a really, really fun, someone's left me a really interesting, what's the word? An Apple review, and I wanted to read it to you because I think part of it is really funny.
Hmm.
Hold on one second. Aiden? Aiden! Oh, he's in the bathroom. Okay. Part of this says, she keeps saying that she's almost 40. At that age, you should know who you are and stop trying so hard. I truly think that deep down, she is completely insecure and doesn't like herself.
Yeah. And that was signed by your mom?
I just thought it was really funny because I was like, for somebody to come on an Apple, first of all, if you're leaving me a review like that,
Hmm.
why? But also, it's funny to me because I'm like, do you think that you're insulting me by telling me that I don't like myself?
It's right. And also, What is the criticism that you shouldn't be trying to like? You shouldn't be working on yourself
I tried, try
in
to. I'm
general.
gonna try hard. It's a whole thing. She also says that I hate white women. So I was like, oh, as
Oh,
soon as she wrote that, I was like, oh, it's a white
hmm.
person. It's a white women hate me. But I do think it's really funny when somebody tries to tell me that it's an insult that I don't like myself. I'm like, yeah, I know. Hello.
Do you like yourself? You really shouldn't.
Yeah.
No one should really, really like
No,
themselves.
this lady. Do you think this
Eh,
lady likes herself?
Oh.
No. Anyway, let's talk about Beyonce.
Hmm.
You listened to Cowboy Carter.
I did.
What were your thoughts about it?
Um, I have no history with Beyonce, is what I
Mhm.
realize.
Yeah.
So this was the first time I've ever heard a Beyonce album. It's the first time I've heard a Beyonce album. I'll be honest.
Like in its entirety, right?
Like in its entirety. Obviously, I've heard Beyonce songs in the past, but I've
Yeah.
never heard the one full thing. Spoiler alert: Beyonce is pretty good. Beyonce's fucking
Hey,
fantastic.
hey, that lady Beyonce, she seems to know what she's doing.
She's really, really good.
Yeah.
I heard it on Friday.
Mhm.
Again, in the midst of my food and nicotine withdrawal,
Mhm.
I was listening to it, and I had like a full blown like emotional reaction to it. Is that what you had also?
I cried multiple times listening to
Hmm.
this album. So initially, let's just pull up the set list or the track list. American Requiem, just the way it starts and everything, you're just
Yes.
like, "Oh my god." Like goosebumps immediately, right?
So that's what surprised me because going into it, obviously, you hear Beyonce, it's Beyonce's country album, blah blah blah, and I don't know what that meant in my head. I
Mhm.
think when I hear somebody, a popular artist, is doing like a new genre or something, I'm thinking like, remember when NSYNC did this "I Promise You" in Spanish? Remember there was like that whole Latin thing that happened in like
When
2000.
Ricky Martin came around and
Yeah,
suddenly everybody had like a Latin person and a song.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
exactly, something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe it'll be like that, but that American Requiem when it started, I
I
was like,
can't believe you thought a Beyonce country album was gonna be like this, I promise you, in
in
Spanish.
Spanish, yeah. Listen, this "I Promise You" in Spanish is a banger. It is
It's
pretty
a
good.
no, this I promise you is a very good song. So
It's a very good song.
I get
Eh,
understand. Flowers where flowers are due, of course.
yes, exactly. And in Spanish, muy bueno. Uh, so I think that's what maybe in my head I was like, well, maybe it'll be like cosplaying a little bit or whatever. No, it's just apparently this is just a Beyonce album, right?
Yeah.
And when I heard that song, I was all moved and everything by it, and I was like, well, this isn't really a country thing. She is just talking about herself.
Yeah.
She is talking about her identity. And for me, as I heard the entire thing, and we can go through the set list or whatever, I think the statement that I got from it was Beyonce declare like this is the most American album I've heard her do at least. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. I
So
did say earlier today I hate the American flag and I
that's
don't
what
care
I
for Americana.
that's what I thought of. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't hate. I kind of love seeing the American flag. I love all of that. Like, I still do, and I think it may be an age thing. I think I came here at a time at an age, and also because I'm a guy and I've had a pretty easy go of it. I think I can still find those things kind of moving,
Yeah.
right? I can still get like Fourth of July stuff. It can still excite me, but I also think it's partially because when I think of Americana, I'm not just thinking of like white Americana. Like they don't get to tell me that
Yeah.
that is the only Americana, right? I'm thinking of the American experience that includes people like Beyonce because
Yeah.
that is how we should look at it.
Yeah.
That includes Michael Jordan. That
Yeah.
is an American man, like, and he's obviously a black man.
Yeah.
He's a African American, but he is also American.
Yeah.
And that excellence that he kind of conveys to the rest of the world, it is American excellence, but it's also black excellence, and both
Yeah.
of those two things kind of go hand in hand. So
Yeah.
right off when I heard American Requiem, and then it goes into like Blackbird, I was
Blackbird. Okay.
full
Can we
blown.
talk about that for a second? Because you
Yeah.
are a big people don't know this about you because they barely know you. I'm getting to know you for the first time today. Found out that you've been a smoker for this whole time. You are a big Beatles bitch.
I went through a big Beatles bitch phase in my early 20s.
Yeah.
And then I revisited that in the last 3 years after that documentary came out. Have you ever watched that documentary?
I'm not really a documentary person.
9 hours, 9 hours of the Beatles, basically. And it is awesome.
Oh
It's
my
so
gosh.
good.
Yeah.
Anyways,
But Blackbird, obviously, that showing up, you were like, "Oh my god, is Beyonce my friend? Was
did you know?
Beyonce also a Beatles bitch?"
Did you know that song is about African Americans?
Yes.
I did not know that until
Yeah.
after this album came out, actually, because I
Yeah.
was like, hey, what's Blackbird doing on here?
Well, I love this album because you didn't listen to Renaissance, right? Before Renaissance, I also had not listened to a Beyonce album in full. And not because I
Hmm.
don't like Beyonce, it's just that it was just not a thing that I did. And I'm a completionist. I've mentioned this before. I need to consume all of
Hmm.
content in the order in which it was released. I did the same thing for Marvel movies. I intend to do the same thing with Beyonce. Because like I listen to popular Beyonce songs, right? Like Countdown is one of my favorite songs of all time, right?
Hmm.
EXO is one of my favorite songs of all time, like of any artist. But I don't like to call myself a Beyonce fan because I've not listened to all of her stuff in earnest, like all of it, right? From like I've not watched the Homecoming, was that what that was? Or like
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
yeah.
or
The
like
Coachella one.
the Coachella stuff. Like I've not seen all that stuff, but I did listen to Renaissance, and I was like, oh my god, this is so good. Because one thing about me, you're a Beatles bitch. I'm a early '90s like dance music on the radio bitch. Like the what's it called, Labouche. Anything by Labouche, like that whole type of energy
Mm-hmm.
is it brings me to like to the happiest place. Like it makes
Like
me really really happy.
like Marky Mark.
Not like Marky Mark. More like, that song, "Why waste your time? You know you're gonna be my," like, stuff like that.
So Jock Jams. You like Jock Jams?
I love jock jams. I love it. Or la da da dee da 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 da.
Da, da,
Like,
da, da.
I love that stuff because when we moved to the United States in
Mm-hmm.
'95, that is predominantly the songs that would play on the radio,
Yeah.
and I just really liked it. And so Renaissance is very much tapping into that type of, like, dance
Is it?
music. Oh,
Okay.
it's so good. It's so good. And all of Renaissance is really like an ode to queer dance culture, queer ballroom
Oh.
culture. And it's so good. It's such an excellent album, right? So I had already like really loved Renaissance. I had listened to Texas Hold'em and I'd listened to 16 Carriages, like passing,
Mm-hmm.
but not in its whole as the way the album is set together, because I had listened to Renaissance and I was like familiar with the fact that like you don't listen to songs randomly on this album, you listen
Yeah.
to the whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was going to give this like whole Cowboy Carter like a full listen. So I listened to American Requiem, immediately I start crying. Then it goes to Blackbird, more tears. 16 Carriages already makes me sad. And then
Mm-hmm.
Protector, the lullaby. Mommy, will you sing me a lullaby, please? Oh my God, Rumi.
That song is beautiful. That song sounds like a Fleetwood Mac song.
It does. And I
Mm-hmm.
love Fleetwood Mac also.
Mm-hmm.
So that obviously was great. And then the big thing that everybody was really excited about was Dolly P
Mm-hmm.
and Jolene.
Yes.
There are a lot of opinions about Beyonce's version of Jolene. What are your thoughts about it?
Oh man, I don't want to go first. Obviously the difference in the tone or the difference in the messaging is what stands out, right? Like
Yeah.
in the Dolly P version, which I think I've talked about being one of my favorite songs on
Of
this
all time,
podcast
mine too.
before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
love that song, right?
Hmm.
The Dolly P version, obviously, Dolly P is like she's literally begging somebody not to take away her man because she's
Yeah.
like
There's like
um
a vulnerability there.
vulnerability, and that she sees like this Jolene person as being, I don't know, almost greater than her, and
Yeah.
because she can just do it. So it's coming from a place of insecurity. The Beyonce version obviously is very different. She's talking about stay away from my man, and I think my favorite line from that is when she calls herself Banji bitch from Louisiana.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Amazing, right?
Yeah.
I can see why, and I don't know where the conversation is now. I can see why people would be like, "Hey, that is not really a feminist point of view
Yeah.
because you are attacking the woman when really your issue is with the man."
Yeah.
The reason why I don't think that's true is because she infantilizes the man right off the top. She
Mhm.
says, I've raised him for the last 20 years. So she's already like, I know my man. He is a piece of shit. He will go astray. Just because you can do this shit, like, we are the ones in power. I am telling you, I'm a woman, I'm in power. You're a woman, you also have power. We can play around with these things, right? Like the
Yeah.
man is almost like a possession.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting because usually it's the other way around, right? Like men look at women that way.
Yeah.
Men look at women, as something that control or whatever. All in all, I love it. I
Yeah.
don't know what your feelings are. I don't know what.
Okay, so I love Jolene, also one of my favorite songs of all time. It's
Hmm.
one of the songs that like I was most excited to like introduce to my kids when they started listening to different kinds of music. They love Jolene. I love Jolene. I was excited to listen to this because I was like, I wonder what she's going to do with it. There is a
Hmm.
strength that Beyonce has that if she had tried to be like vulnerable, sad Jolene, it wouldn't have made sense to me. Like I would have been like,
Exactly.
I don't
Yeah.
believe this. I
Yeah.
don't believe that Beyonce, like, why would
Like, yeah,
Beyonce
you're
ever
fucking
beg?
Beyonce.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, Beyonce shouldn't be begging anybody to do anything, right? Like that seems ridiculous. So I like it a lot. Like I liked it. It's not my favorite song on the album by far, but it was really fun
Mm.
to listen to. And
Yeah.
people on the internet are like, "What did Beyonce have to do? This is a throwaway song." Blah blah. And then people are of course being like, you know, why is Beyonce saying these things when we all know that like, Jay-Z steps out on her and all that. I'm like,
Hmm.
she's written multiple songs and an
Yeah.
entire album about destroying this man to the point where now anytime he gets on stage, he compliments her.
Hmm.
So I think she's fine.
I think it's one of those relationships where I'm like, I think they have figured it out for themselves how
Yeah.
it works. I don't think Beyonce is like waiting around or crying at
On
nights or
our
whatever.
opinion.
Yeah, exactly. I think she's perfectly fine. But
Yes.
yeah, I just back to Jolene. I think I can see why people would be like, "Oh, it's a throwaway song or whatever." But I think you do that because you want to have the conversation because Beyonce knows what she's doing. Like she knows
Exactly.
how to market herself. She knows that, and she got Dolly Parton on the song, right?
So
I
good.
think I think it starts conversations like this, which is ultimately I think what Beyonce wants. She wants to be talked about, and that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Do you know Stevie Wonder played the harmonica on Jolene?
Oh, the original?
This one.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, of course. Because that's Beyonce. Beyonce was like, Steve, do me a favor, will ya? The song Daughters also made me really emotional because the way it's also set up is like she's threatening this woman, Jolene. And then Daughters, initially, I thought it was about her daughter.
Mm-mm.
And then when you start to listen to it, I was like, did Beyonce beat up Blue Ivy? What happened? And then you continue to listen to it, and it's this woman talking about how she is her father's daughter. And as you
Yes.
know, one thing about me is I
Yep.
am our
That's
father's
good.
daughter. And so I listened to that song, and immediately I was like, oh no, oh no.
You know, when I was listening to the album, I was like taking on notes because I knew we would be talking about it.
Yeah.
I wrote a thing. I wrote "daddy shit," and then I put like
Oh,
a question mark next to it. I was like, I don't know if I should bring this up or not, but there's obviously a lot of daddy shit, and I don't
yeah.
know how open she's. I guess
Well,
like the back,
she talks about her dad like he's dead, and,
yeah,
and this man is still alive.
just hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but it was so good. And then my favorite song on the album is actually Tyrant
Okay.
because it has strings, and anytime there's strings and hip hop, that's it for me.
I have to go back after. I don't know if I remember that one.
Yeah.
I like my favorite song, and I think I have an update for you for my funeral.
Oh.
Yaya, play Yaya at my funeral.
You don't want Pitbull anymore
I
or
don't. I
whatever?
think it's time to retire Caliocho for Yaya.
Yaya is so fun.
I would like actually if you can because I'm assuming I have a couple of years left. especially with me decreasing my smoking. I think a couple more years here. I want the kids to learn it, and I want the kids to play
Okay. I'll ask Aiden to learn yeah on the
the
electric
guitar
guitar.
part. Yeah.
Um, do you care for Post Malone?
I don't really know Post Malone. All I know is the Spider-Man song. I
Yeah,
don't
me
know
too.
any new music.
Me too. I was listening to it and I was like, "Oh, Post Malone sings really well." Like also I realize how old I am when I say things like this. Like the
Hmm.
song Spaghetti is great, but I was like, "Oh, what other music of Shaboozie's should I be listening to?" I don't know.
I have no idea.
Not a clue. But I
That's
do not
that.
believe that Beyonce wants Post Malone to get into her Levi jeans. I don't believe that.
That's. What'd you think of the Miley song?
I mean, there's this quality to that song that like reminds me of like there's there's a
I'll tell you
quality.
what it reminds me of.
What you tell me what it reminds you of?
For me, when I hear that song, right, just I imagine a 1996 music video with like female artists, and it's like night, and
Yes.
they're just having like the like soft camera lenses.
Yes.
It's
There's
just
this
so lovely.
there's like a like I don't want to say Lilith Fair because it's not
Yeah.
Lilith Fair,
No,
right?
it's not
It's
Lilith
not
Fair.
Lilith Fair because Lilith Fair music was so specific, but in the realm of like it
On
reminds me
VH1. It has to be on VH1.
100% on VH1. Remember
Yeah.
that song, that Madonna song that where she's like walking and she's wearing a cowboy hat?
Yeah.
What's that song?
Um, well, there was a couple from that. Shoot. Uh, I don't
Madonna
know.
cowboy song. Okay. Is it Don't Tell Me? No.
No.
Is it Music? No.
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 She had a whole cowboy. See, that is when I thought of Beyonce cowboy or
Yeah.
Beyonce country. See, Madonna there is like cosplaying, right?
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
I was expecting.
Yeah. Well, it feels to me like a
Hmm.
VH1 moment
Yeah.
for sure,
Yes.
that song. Which I really, really enjoyed, obviously, as well. I mean, I think Miley Cyrus is underrated. I
I
think that
believe
people
that that's
forget
true.
that she's great. I don't think I've ever heard a Miley Cyrus song that I didn't love.
I don't know how much Miley Cyrus I know. I
But the
know
ones that you
everything.
do know,
That was good.
bangers.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Party in the USA?
No, no, I hate that song.
You hate that song?
The song is really bad. Yeah, I hate that
Okay.
song.
The Climb?
I love The Climb. I
The
love
Climb.
that. I love the seven different things I hate about you. That song.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. What other songs are on here that like really stuck out to you?
What's the other one? Just gonna.
So while you think about that, one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that I have been hearing from a lot of my friends, some of them who are queer and they grew up in the South, like Southern state,
Mm-hmm.
um, and actually a lot of I'm seeing similar sentiments come from like Black people from the South, who listen to Beyonce, is that there is something really lovely for her to reclaim the feeling of growing up in the South. Like
Yes.
there's a feeling in this whole album of growing up in the South that they've been having a hard time like grappling with because especially like my friends who grew up in Texas, it's so hard for them to like deal with the fact that Texas is such a deeply terrible place to live now for Black and brown people and for queer
Mm-hmm.
people and for women. So that fact that Beyonce is like celebrating her roots, and her roots are that she is a country girl.
Mm-hmm.
Um the fact that she can celebrate that and the fact that she can bring that to people and make them feel like it's okay to celebrate part of your roots and the fact that country is a part of who you are, it doesn't make you like, a person who would have been at the Capitol on January 6th because the
Yeah.
January 6th people have hijacked the experience, that country experience for marginalized people who live in the South. And
Exactly. So,
yeah,
in terms of a country album, not country album, I think it is definitely a statement album, right?
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's the way that we can look at it. And that, to me, that's what the statement was, which was, yeah, there's, Beyonce, everyone knows who Beyonce is. She is an icon at this point, right? And she's saying, yes, I am this icon, but I'm also this American person that grew up in this country, that grew up in this region, that has these roots. Just because you know me as this big person in the world, that doesn't mean that you get to strip away the fact that this is who I am at my core,
Yeah.
right? And you know the background of the album, right? Like you know how it came about or whatever. You
No,
know
tell me
the
about
the
it.
big. So she said that it was inspired by an event that happened, a public event that happened to her, and people have, it's pretty much confirmed that it was this one event, which was in 2016. She performed at the CMAs,
Oh yeah,
the
with
country
the
music
chicks.
with the chicks, right?
Which, by
So
the way, I was expecting the chicks to be on this album.
I don't know what the backstory there is,
Do you
but
think that they
the
had a beef?
no, not at all, because the
Okay.
chicks are really good people.
Yeah.
But the way that that came about is because she had this song on the album before called "Daddy Lessons."
Mhm.
"Daddy Lessons," by the way, is another great song because
Mhm.
I heard that. It's like a country sounding song, right? So somebody reached out to Beyonce and said, "Hey, we really love this version of the song." I think one of the chicks reached
Mhm.
out to her, and then somehow the CMAs asked Beyonce if she would like to perform, right?
Yeah.
And this whole thing happened, and they never announced it. And the performance happened, but within the room that night, this is fucking Beyonce performing, right?
Yeah.
She felt people were like, "Get off the stage."
Yeah, well, if you look at the
People,
crowd, there's like
uh huh,
4 people clapping. Matthew McConaughey being one of them, by the way, having a great time.
good
You
for
know
him.
how he is.
Hmm.
But yeah, you could look around the room and they're pissed that she's up there.
Yeah, yeah, and there's like, if there's like stories of people saying stuff like, get that off the stage, right?
Yeah.
And it's so fucking crazy. It's like, you know, Beyonce came to your show. This is a huge deal for your show. That's
Yeah.
just the way that it
When
is,
was
right?
that CMA performance? Can you look that up? Because the other thing I'm thinking about is
2016.
no, when in 2016? Because I believe that that year is also the year that during the Super Bowl, Beyonce came out with. Is that the year that she came out with Bruno Mars and was dressed very much, in
I
Black
believe
Panther
so.
chic?
That was a formation, right?
Yeah, exactly. And people lost their mind over that because they thought it was so messed up. And there were all these arguments about like how the Black Panther was a terrorist organization and all this bullshit, right? So,
Hmm.
like, for her to be able to do that and then also show up at the CMAs to racists was like a real fuck you. Um,
Yeah.
and
So
yeah,
this was December. Looks like December of 2016.
yeah. So
The
the
Super Bowl performance
formation was
probably.
was February of 2016. So
Mhm.
that's pretty amazing of
And I
Beyonce.
think
Yeah,
when that happened, the formation thing happened, I think initially people were surprised by that also, right? I mean,
yeah,
people had a reaction to it. People had a reaction to Beyonce's activism, I
yeah.
think, at that point. I think that was something that was new. So it's probably something that she's been thinking about for a while. And so, coming back to like that whole discussion of Americana and how you feel good about certain things or whatever, right? I think what Beyonce is saying is she is proud to be American, and I think
Because at
I
least she
think,
knows she's free.
but I think that that's true for a lot of people. I
No,
think
I know.
it's true. Like obviously, there are reasons why we should be vocal and we should call out shit that happens in this country. We should call out the racism that happens in this country because that's true. Those are things that are fucked up about this country, right? That doesn't mean that that's the entire story. Like
Yeah.
I have, I think we both have really nice memories of growing up in this country, even throughout the racism. I mean, at least for me,
Even
right?
even
That's
past the racism, it wasn't so bad. No, I know. I think that there is this thing that I think about sometimes, right? Which is that like, what am I saying to my kids when I say that I hate this place, or that when I say that
hmm
this country
yeah,
is fucked, or that I don't like American flags? Because like, as far as my kids are concerned, my kids are American. They're born here. This is their country. This
yeah.
is all the only country that they've ever known. And I think that similar to what Beyonce is doing by like reclaiming her Americanness and reclaiming her Southern roots and reclaiming her space in as a country girl, is she's saying that you don't get to define what being American looks like, and you don't get
Hmm.
to define what Americana looks like, right?
Exactly.
Um in even in American Requiem, one of the when she's singing, she says the big ideas die here.
Hmm.
And like that's the sad part of what the American experience is right now, right? Like that we
Yep.
all are struggling with watching like the American dream fall apart. And I think that sometimes conservatives almost like bank on that. They bank on the fact that like we hate it so much that we'll maybe eventually just give up, and like the country will just become what it wants to become. They're like
Hmm.
Trump voters are relying on the fact that we will eventually just give up and let them win it, right? Because they're
Yeah,
thinking to
and just
themselves
not
like,
vote.
fuck it.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I think that like this album and just the thought of like reclaiming your Americanness, I think is the thing is that while I don't care for like the flag or like
Hmm.
the nationalism, I think the thing that I like the most about living in this country is that I get to decide what my future looks like, and I get to like reclaim the idea that I get to reclaim my future and reclaim my identity or my space in this country. That is part of the American dream.
That is part of the American dream. I think the thing that I get, when I think about, when I say I like thinking about Americana and I like those feelings or whatever, because I think when I was old enough to know that moving to America was a big deal for us.
Yeah.
Moving to America was going to improve our lives, right? So I am still tied to that sense of hopefulness,
Yeah.
of optimism when I see the American flag, right? And that's the thing that I like tapping into. When I see the American flag, those are the things that I think about. Now, having lived in this country for nearly 30 years at this point, obviously I know that the country is more than just hopefulness and apple pies and baseball and all that shit, right? I know that there's a lot of bad shit that happens in this
Yeah.
country also. I'm aware of all of that stuff. But just like I am aware now that there was more bad shit, I'm also aware of the contributions that people from all different walks of life, people of all different races, people of all different ethnicities, have made to make the country what it is.
Yeah.
And so just because somebody tells me that Americana is, farmers and fucking playing baseball and shit like that, right? That's not all Americana is to
Yeah.
me. Americana is also,
The fact
basketball and Michael
yeah,
Jordan and
or the
Muhammad Ali and
and the
rap
f
music and
yeah, and the fact that this country was built on the blacks of black people.
exactly.
They are
And
the
the
reason why this country is what it is. And
exactly.
yeah.
And I think that just because somebody else doesn't recognize that doesn't mean that I don't get to recognize that. I
Yeah.
recognize that when I look at the American flag. And I think
Brother.
the other thing that I thought about was, again, she is saying that, country was, people are coming out and saying, well, this isn't her genre, and she talks about that in
It's so
spaghetti or whatever.
absurd. Yeah.
There's so much history of like black artists in country music. Now we are not black, but we are minorities, but so we're just kind of looking at the situation from afar. The thing that it makes me think about is like, um how desi culture and desi cuisine
Mhm.
seems to have become part of American culture at this point, right?
Yeah.
So I think about like, you know I think about like seeing like stuff at Whole Foods. I see like chicken muckney at Whole Foods ready to go.
Yeah.
And then I also think about my experience going to lunch in
Yeah.
1995 and our food smelling a certain way and
Yeah.
getting looks and reactions to it and things like that, right? Now, do I get pissed off that there's chicken muckney at Whole Foods? No, because I want everyone to enjoy that. It is good
Yeah.
food. I
Mhm.
am proud of that food. I think the message for that I would just want people to have is don't exoticize
Yeah.
minorities. And I think
Yeah.
that's the thing that gets frustrating. It's
Yeah.
just like, you say that we're like this, like almost like this different species from you when
Yeah.
we first come in here, but over time things have a way of incorporating themselves, and that's how people should be. So this idea of like protecting Americana, that thinking of just the old days or whatever, is just stupid.
Yeah, and also because country music is very much music of black people. It's not
Yeah.
music that came about suddenly by all white people. It was the reason why there are such why there is such an influence, why there are so many predominantly white country music stars is because country music is also racist
Hmm.
and exclusionary, and they did not make spaces for black people. Like the thing that
Yeah,
we were
they kept
talking
them
about
out.
earlier about like when it's not done by a white girl, then it doesn't get popular. And like Beyonce's here to say fuck you. You don't get to tell me that this thing that I grew up with, this culture that I've been a
Hmm.
part of is not mine just because you never recognize that black people exist in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also, like, sure, you want to gatekeep country, like country music. You want to gatekeep. Okay,
Okay.
she got Willie Nelson and Dolly Parton. Okay, all
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
good for you.
Exactly. Exactly. Anyway, I love Beyonce. Look at us. You think we should
Look at
try
us.
to go to her next concert? I think that
I
I would
think the
love that.
tickets would be. I think they would be very expensive. I would
I
love
mean,
to go.
Renaissance tickets weren't too expensive. I almost went. I almost
There
went by
were they?
myself. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I would go by myself. There is. I was thinking about going to a Green Day show in
A
Philly
Green
around this
Day
time.
show?
Yeah,
When is
would you come
that?
in August?
You know who would love to go to a Green Day show?
Your husband?
My 10-year-old.
Ooh,
You want to take him to Green Day?
I think I will be taking him to Green Day. That
Yeah,
is
go for it.
done.
Yeah,
All right.
that could be the first concert he ever goes to.
Can he hang out in the general admissions area, like the mosh pit area?
He would probably love to mosh pit, but just take care of him, please.
I will definitely. This is happening.
Yeah,
I'm so excited.
I know. Is he gonna smoke weed there while he's there too? What's gonna happen? Are you gonna get
Is
my
my
kid on
son gonna
cigarettes?
smoke the reefer? I will give him.
Give him his
Aiden
first
cigarettes?
cigarettes. Give him
Jesus
his
Christ.
first cigarette at a Green Day concert.
No, I will not be doing that. I will hopefully have quit by then. How about that? How
Oh,
about
how about
this? Well,
yes.
I can only take your son to Green Day if I have quit smoking by then.
Yeah, that sounds good. But also,
That's
like,
good.
in your mind, aren't you like, okay, fine, I didn't quit smoking. Now I don't need to waste a ticket on a disgusting 10-year-old who's going to be bored the whole time.
No, I
Keep
like
me
him
from meeting chicks.
at a Green Day concert as like a 41-year-old.
Hey, your
No,
birthday's next week.
it is indeed.
Are you excited?
I'm not excited. I'm
All
not
right.
actually. I'm perfectly fine with it.
Well,
I don't
God is
feel. I feel. I feel nothing.
okay. Well, God is blessing you with Eid on your birthday. God is
He is
saying you
indeed.
turn 41 and also go ahead and have your morning coffee and cigarette, you disgusting piece of shit.
I think that's one of the Bible verses.